We'd like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land on which this podcast was produced, the Gadigal People of the Eora Nation. We pay our respects to elders past and present.
It's August 2021 and we're at Perisher in Australia's snowy mountains. 21-year-old medical student Jimmy Jan moved down here 2 months ago when COVID lockdowns caused his university classes to move online. He's planning to spend the semester here, splitting his days between the slopes and his studies. One Bellbird morning, he decides to squeeze in a few runs before logging online for the afternoon. Jimmy has the terrain parked to himself, and he's skiing the jumps he's done many times before. But one wrong maneuver changes everything. Jimmy wakes up a few minutes later to find himself surrounded by the ski patrol. They tell him to stay still, remove his boots, and ask if he can wiggle his toes. He tries, but no movement follows. Hours later, X-rays will show fractured vertebrae. I'm at Middleton, and this is Head Game. Today, Jimmy Jan on embracing life after a spinal cord injury. Jimmy Jan, listen, thank you ever so much for coming on my podcast, Head Game. Talk about mindset, pulling through and having to deal with the change that you've dealt with. But first and foremost, Jimmy, how are you, buddy? And how's life treating you?
I am very good. Yeah, thanks for having me. It's an honor to be on your podcast. But yeah, I'm doing good. I'm in my 4th year of medicine at the moment. So that keeps me busy for the most part. Yeah, I'm doing good.
Was that something that comes from the family? Is there doctors and nurses in the family? Where does that sort of medical sort of background come from?
Look, I want to say like it's, me who's, decided I want to do this and like gone through it. But I guess there is a bit of a health background in my family. My dad's a dentist and my mum's an occupational therapist. My sister, actually, she's a doctor as well. So I'm not really, I don't know if I'm following in the footsteps, but yeah, I guess it's health-based family. At the start, I don't know, I guess I just kind of thought it would be cool. And as I've studied it and kept going, like it's just so much more cool to me and so much more exciting. I just really love learning. Learning's really fun. And so, I don't know, I think medicine is this really awesome career because like there's just so many different directions you can go and you can never quite know everything, and so you just can learn forever. And then I just think learning forever is a lot of fun.
I love that, mate. Do you know what? I love that. You can learn forever because ultimately that's what life's all about. That's what we're all about, right? We're always learning, we're always growing, we're always trying to become that better version of who we are through wisdom and knowledge. And I suppose with your accident in 2021, the medical field, has it become more fascinating for you? Has it become more fascinating, probably the wrong word, but has it become a bit more fascinating or interesting?
I think, absolutely. Like I've had like an insight into, healthcare that like a bit on the other side, I guess, of like the healthcare, sector. And so for my first couple of years of med school, like before my accident, just learning about all these things and I don't know, then suddenly I'm like, have the perspective of a patient and I learned a lot. And I think I definitely look at like, I guess my future career as a doctor from like a different perspective, just, having that experience as a patient, I suppose.
Yeah, you can almost put yourself in that patient sort of sector as well. So you're almost studying on yourself. Talk me through the day in the life of Jimmy Jan before the accident in 2021.
Yeah, so before my accident, I was living in a van and I was living in Newcastle at the time. I was just honestly parked at the beach most mornings and go for a surf in the morning and then go to uni. And I was just kind of trying to have as much fun as I could, do a bit of travel. And then COVID hit. And so a lot of our classes were online for a while. And in 2021, we had like that second wave of COVID. And I had already got my season pass for the snow. And I was like, I'm just going to drive my van down there. Like, they're not locked down there yet. So I'll just park at the snow and ski and snowboard every day and get my classes online.
What a place to be able to sort of park your van up, study online, and then go and hit the slopes or the mountains, whatever you wanted to do. Is that exactly what you done?
Yeah, exactly. Like I was living the dream. I was having so much fun. Like, you know, I'd be up on the chairlift and I got my headphones in, listening to, you know, a lecture and just, you know, hitting the slopes. It was an absolute blast.
So you were literally living the dream as a student. Who says you don't live the dream as a student, eh? So take me back to that day in 2021. You know, you wake up in your camper van. Just talk me through that day and how it transpired.
I had a class, I think, in the afternoon. And so I was like, I'll just go up and do a couple hours on the mountain. And yeah, I just woke up, had my oats like I do every day, and drove up the mountain, took the chairlift up, and it was my first run of the day. I'm coming down the mountain, and I was wanting to go like all the way across the mountain to like a different track, basically. And I went past the terrain park, and it was empty because like it was early in the morning, and I was like, oh, I might just hit the jumps on the way down. Usually there's just like heaps of people at the terrain park, and I don't really like waiting, but, you know, it was all empty. So I was like, I'll just hit some jumps on the way down. And yeah, I hit the first jump and it was fine. And then hit the second jump and I just kind of, took off wrong, I guess, and wasn't in the right position where I needed to be. I wasn't trying to do any tricks. I was literally just trying to jump. And I just had a bit of speed going into it and ended up doing like, kind of like, I guess, a bad backflip and came down and landed on my head and then knocked myself out and woke up a few minutes later and there was like ski patrol all around me and I was like trying to get up and they're like, no, you don't, just stay where you are. And I was like, oh, like I can't actually get up. And yeah, that was when I knew that I guess things were about to get interesting for me.
Wow. So this is just a normal day for you, right? You've just been, as in normal day, you've got that routine going, you parked your van up, you've been hitting the slopes as normal. Had you hit that jump before?
Yeah, I'd been doing the jumps and on like the skis and the snowboard, and this one just went poorly, you know?
Was it one of those where I suppose, you know, you build up the confidence, like on anything, you know, motorbikes, quad bikes, ski slopes, you know, were you getting faster and were the jumps getting higher?
Yeah, no, it was definitely like I'd been hitting them quite a lot that week. And so I was getting like more and more confident. And so probably like not paying as attention as much as I maybe should have been. And I guess focusing. When I got to the top of the jump, I knew like it wasn't going to work out. Like I remember thinking to myself like, oh crap, this is going to hurt, because probably like, I don't know, maybe like a month earlier, I had kind of jumped poorly on my snowboard and stacked it, and that hurt. And so like when I was at the top of the jump, I was like, yo, crap, this is actually going to hurt a lot. And that's the last thing I remember thinking about, I guess.
Because you've studied medicine, or you're studying medicine, and you were probably, you know, in the thick of things, because of the knowledge that you already had in the medical field, did you know something was up right away, or did it take a bit of time for it for you to really go, oh, something's seriously up?
Yeah, I don't think it was like right away. It was when on the snow, like I kind of just, I don't know, like I'd just woken up. I didn't really know what was like going on, I guess. And when they took me down the mountain to the medical center, they did some like x-rays, and I asked if I could see the x-rays after they did them, and they're like, oh like, are you sure you want to like, and I was like, yeah, like I love x-rays, like just
medical
I don't know,
student, of course I do.
Yeah, I used to study radiography as well, so I don't know, I just think x-rays are cool. And so they showed me, and I could see that my T10 was like basically completely displaced over my spinal cord. And yeah, when I saw that x-ray, I was like, oh, like this is bad. This is serious, I suppose. Like we had just done our neuro unit the semester before. So this was all in my second year of medicine. So we had just done our neurology unit in the semester before, so I'd kind of learned about spinal cord injuries. And so I saw the X-ray and I was like, yeah, this is serious. And so then they flew me to Sydney on a fun little helicopter ride, and then I got some fun surgery.
Wow. How you say you obviously when you hit the deck you're unconscious. How long were you actually out cold before you came to?
It was about 3 minutes, and like the way the terrain park is like situated on Paralysis, it's like right on the Front Valley, so it's quite near to, I guess, ski patrol, and it's actually like right under the ski lift, so there's a lot of people who got a front row seat of my nice stack. So lots of people saw, so they were quick onto it to come and collect me.
Just being unconscious for 30 seconds, a minute, but 3 minutes, wow, that. So, you've taken a big fall there. And when you come to as well, you say that they're doing, are they doing the not studied medicine, but I've been a team medic, and I know about the awareness and coming in, securing the head, making sure, was all of that taking place, and, wiggle the toes, and can you feel your legs from here, touching? Did all that take place on the slope, or did they just whisk you away straight away?
Yeah, no, it happened on the mountain. I remember them taking my boots off and asking if I could wiggle my toes. Yeah, and I was like, am I not wiggling my toes? I'm pretty sure I'm wiggling my toes, but I wasn't wiggling my toes. It's really weird to like have control, I guess, of your whole body in 1 second, and then a few minutes later you wake up and it's like, oh, half my body, like the control of half my body is just like gone. It's a weird thing.
Was there ever a moment on the slope, whilst you were being transported from the slope to the hospital, was there ever a moment that you thought, I could be paralyzed?
Yeah, when they showed me my X-rays, I was in the medical center, I think, for maybe like an hour, I think, before they flew me away in the helicopter. Vertebrae are not supposed to be over on top of your spinal cord. And so when I saw that, I knew I was definitely in it for the long run, I think. I knew this wasn't just going to be like a, 6 weeks in hospital and you're back out walking. It's whatever was happening was going to be a big change in my life.
Wow. And when do you actually get confirmation then of the news that you are paralyzed from the waist down, and that you're going to spend the rest of your life in a wheelchair? Was there any hope of them saying this could be repaired and you might be able to walk one day, or was it just a straight hardcore truth of you're paralyzed from the waist down?
So the morning after my surgery, so after I've been flown to Sydney and had surgery, I think I woke up late that night and after my surgery, and then they were like, you've severed your spinal cord, so you're not going to be walking.
Your head must have been absolutely everywhere and anywhere, right? You've just come out of surgery, you're probably groggy from the process, and just to be given that news. Can you just put me in that setting? Was there family around you when you received that news? 'Cause that's big news, mate. That's big news.
It is. It's definitely big news to get. But no, I was all by my little lonesome in hospital. Because it was during that COVID. So my family my parents, they live in Queensland, so they're in a different state. And then I wasn't allowed any visitors. And I think while I was in ICU, I was allowed, I think, 2-hour visit a day. And so my sisters came the next day. So eventually had some family around me.
You come across as super positive, but how did you manage that, and how did you process that news by yourself? Because I know you had the nurses and the doctors for support, but to receive that by yourself and to having to process that as well by yourself, I can't even start to imagine that. That's talk about psychological resilience. That's something that I'd be fascinated to hear how you dealt with it.
Yeah, I think at the time I was just kind of like, oh, like, yeah, I mean, I guess I broke my back, paralyzed from the waist down. Like, there's nothing I can do about it. And so pretty early on, I was kind of just like, had accepted that. And like, even like on the first day after the team had rounded and then I had my breakfast, I remember thinking, oh my gosh, like I'm supposed to be in class today. Like I have to email the uni and tell them why I'm missing class. And so I like hop on my little computer and I'm like, hey, I broke my back yesterday and I might miss class for the rest of the week. So I don't know. My head was weird. Like that's not really something that should be a major priority, I think, in the time. But I was like, oh, I need to make sure, the uni knows that why I'm missing class.
So your first thought process was, I'm missing class. I need to inform the uni that I'm not going to be there.
Yeah.
Unless
the email I received back was like, oh, this is not really a priority. Thinking about medicine, I was like, oh, can I still do medicine? Like really briefly. But one of the teams that rounded on me really early on was like, oh, have you heard about this doctor? They're a doctor in a wheelchair. And so then I was like, oh, yeah, medicine's still an option for me.
When did you actually start thinking about yourself? When did you actually start thinking, right, I've got a hell of a lot of work to do here?
Yeah. So I was in ICU for 5 days. And so after that, like I could actually start doing rehab and stuff. And I started uni back when I got out of ICU. So one day, I guess I took a week off. And I guess that was a nice distraction, I guess, to keep me going in hospital. And then, I started doing a lot of rehab. And it was probably like, a couple weeks into it. And then I was like, oh, like this is forever. This is how it is now. Like, this is, I don't know, this is going to be an adventure. And a lot of work.
And I suppose I have the same mindset as well. Any sort of setbacks, knockbacks, problems, I sort of look at them as challenges. And you just said it there. I don't know if you said it on purpose, but you said, right, I've got this adventure now. How did your rehab look? Was it a lot psychological, that acceptance and dealing with it, or talk me through your rehab?
From day dot, like after my surgery, I remember like when they first sat me up, my blood pressure just dropped and I kind of like passed out almost. And when I woke up from that, I just remember thinking like, oh my gosh, I can't even sit up without passing out. Like this is gonna be like, I don't know, a lot. And each day, like I started doing more and more. And I remember the first time dressing myself after my accident, because, after the accident, there's like a team of nurses and they're like, there's people showering you and doing all this stuff, and like going from like completely independent to being like absolutely dependent for everything is a really jarring experience. It's really weird to go like from a 21-year-old who's just doing everything, living by himself, and then suddenly I need someone to help me go to the bathroom. Like it's just weird. And so I was just kind of determined to just get back every inch of independence I could. And so I just started working like really hard. And I remember like the first time dressing myself, and I was just so exhausted at the end of it, and like picking up each one of my legs and sliding my legs through. Like I remember like laying back being exhausted, and I was like, that's sick. Like I just dressed myself, which is just a weird thing for a 21-year-old to be like really proud of themselves for. But every single one of those experiences that like I was able to like get back, I don't know.
Small victories, right?
Yeah,
small,
exactly.
Small, you feel like you've overcome that challenge, and no matter how small or big it is, it's still a victory, right? It's still a tick in the box where you're like, right, I've got that, I've achieved that. On to the next.
There was just so many things that I had to like try and get back for myself to like get back to my independence, and it was a lot, and it was a lot of hard work. But I mean, I don't know, you got one experience of life, and I want it to be as fun as it can be for me, so I just kept working hard, I guess.
How was the acceptance of, you're living the outdoor adventure life, in your camper van? You got that free spirit mentality and attitude. How does one, accept that and move and process things to progress, to move on?
I think, like, at the start, I kind of just was like, I don't know, a bit blasé about the whole thing. Like, I was like, what are you going to do? Like, that's life, just keep going. And then, like, as time went on, and like I said, I was like, oh, wow, this is forever. I, like, kind of was, like, able to reflect on it more, I guess. And, like, because I had such an active life, and I literally just used to do whatever I wanted, whenever I wanted, like, just free little spirit, if you will. And then for a brief period, I was like, oh, it's gone. Like, I'm never going to have fun again. Like, never going to have fun as much as I had fun before. And then I was like, I don't know, just kind of trying to reframe the way I was thinking about that. And it's like, I might never have fun like I had before, but, like, that's not to say I won't have fun. Like, there's so many ways to have fun in life. And, like, now I just have to find all those new ways for me to have fun. I used to do, like, a lot of running and a lot of scuba diving and lots of all that stuff, like active, use your legs. And I can't do a lot of that anymore. But, like, I mean, there's more than 6 activities on offer in life. So I just need to, find the new ones to have fun with.
And did that get you down, Jimmy?
There were definitely, like, a lot of times, especially, like, while I was still in rehab, these moments where I definitely had, like, down moments. They didn't, like, last. They're not, like, these long periods that, like, kind of take over my mind. I kind of would just, have that dark moment and, like, try and work through it. I've got this album on my photos on my phone, and it's called Legs. And when I was, like, being all depressed in hospital, I would, like, go through all my photos and add all these photos into an album called Legs. And then whenever I was, like, kind of feeling bummy in hospital, I would just feel sorry for myself and swipe through this, like, album of photos. And
surely that would make you worse, Jimmy.
It definitely did. Some of the pictures in there, I'm just like, I'm never going to stand on top of that mountain ever again. I think after a while, I would just look at these pictures, and it's not like I'll never be able to do these again. It's like, I'm so grateful that I had the experience to do all of these things before, because, like, there's a lot of people in the world who will never do, like, some of the fun stuff I've had the, fortune and privilege to experience, and
that you will continue to experience.
Exactly.
Right? Because
exactly.
like you said, there's still so much fun that can be had. There's still so much you can do, right?
You're absolutely right. Like, this world is so exciting. Like, there's so much to do, so much to learn, and, like, yeah, you only have one experience on this planet, and, like, just got to soak up as much as you can. So that's what I'm trying to do.
And there's a word that I'm going to say this word, and you'll probably smile. Oopsie.
Yeah. Oopsie. Yeah.
Talk to me about Oopsie and how that sort of played a role in your life.
Yeah. So, like, after I broke my back, I was laying in the medical center, and I had the x-rays and got I think I had a little collar on, and I was just laying in there, and I don't know, I had my phone and I just took a selfie and on Snapchat, and I wrote the little caption as oopsie, because I had an oopsie, and I feel like that was the perfect way to, I guess, sum up the experience I was having. And I still, like, when I think about that day, it's still, it's oopsie, just sometimes things happen, and oopsie. Exactly.
It must be fascinating that you're in the medical field, and like you said, you're the patient as well. Has your medical studies become even more interesting now due to your accident?
Yeah, no, definitely. Like, a lot of, like, topics have become much more interesting, where I'm, like, trying to, like, figure out, I guess the pathophysiology of, like, different things, even, like, spinal cord injuries. A lot of doctors, I probably, like, fortunately don't have the experience of, like, I guess, I don't know, disability or, like, I don't know, chronic health conditions. And so I do have that insight, and so that's something that, you know, I'm now able to take into my future practice, you know, my future interactions with patients. So it's a crappy situation, you know, becoming paralyzed, but, you know, it is what it is. And I guess, yeah, it's one of the positives I can definitely take from it. It's just, I guess, an insight into like what it's like to, you know, have your world change in an instant, or just, you know, lose function, or, you know, there's lots of different stuff about disability that I now definitely understand a lot more than I did when I briefly covered it, you know, in a semester before my accident. Yeah.
And how has that sort of transpired into the psychology side of things? Are you taking that on as well, or is it just pure medicine? And because the psychology side of what you've been through will surely help people, and it will help people in the future.
Yeah. Biggest part from my experience was just, I think I was probably resilient before my accident happened. And I think, I mean, if I had to give advice to someone psychology-wise, it would be like, start developing your resilience now. Like, don't wait until something bad happens to try and be resilient, because it's, you know, something you need to practice before.
You're right. Resilience isn't about just being strong and bouncing things off. And resilience is actually going through these hardships, going through these situations, and coming out the other side, or processing whatever's happened to you, or the situation, in order to make it work for you. Right, that's what resilience is. It's not there being there, and that word is used, you know, too often. It's not there bouncing stuff off. It's actually, once you've been through the mill, once you've been through something that's, you know, traumatic, and you can really look at it as a life experience and use it like you do as a life experience to progress and to be better. That's what resilience really is. And you know, that's why, you know, talk about a resilient mindset, to come through the psychological side, not just the physical side. The physical side is pretty obvious, right? But the psychological side of coming through that and making it work to your advantage, that's huge.
Yeah. Bouncing back from an injury like this is a lot easier, I guess, even just in Australia, compared, like, if I was in a different country, like the resources I had access to, you know, like, it's easy to bounce back when you have universal healthcare, and, you know, your university is supportive of you continuing your studying. And so, like, yeah, I think it's definitely important to have supports
a good
around.
Support. Yeah. Good support network. And also, you mentioned before about someone, there's a doctor in a wheelchair that you mentioned before. Have you reached out to any doctors in wheelchairs and, you know, got a bit of inspiration or knowledge from them?
Yeah, no, there's a doctor in the Gold Coast in Australia, Dr. Dinesh Palipana. He's a emergency physician, and he's really cool. He messaged me on Instagram, and we got to chatting, and yeah, I've met him a few times, and actually I did a keynote speech with him on disability and medicine a couple of years ago, and yeah, he's really cool. I hope to work with him one day.
How does it help you knowing that there's someone like yourself, obviously not as young as you, but someone like yourself in the same situation? Does that give you a little bit of hope, a little bit of inspiration, or are you just quite, you know, listen, this is life, I'll deal with it?
Yeah, no, it's definitely helped, like, just being like, all right, it's been done. Like, if someone can do it, like, I'm sure I can do it, you know? So, like, it's good, like, to have that for myself. But I actually also think it's good probably for the people around me as well, who are like, being a doctor, like, in a wheelchair, like, people might have reservations when they hear that. But I guess when, you know, you can just kind of point to someone who's already done it, it's just easier to, you know, subdue the haters.
Yeah, exactly. Doubt there's any out there. And also this question, and excuse my ignorance on this question, but bar the operations, is there any pain because you've had your nerve severed? Did you have to deal with a lot of pain, or was it just from post operations? And just talk me through that, how that works.
Yeah, so post operatively, I was like, did have a lot of pain. Like, I was being treated by the pain team, but one of the doctors actually on my team, like everyone knew I was a medical student, and so they're kind of like speaking to me as, I guess, more of like a
Professional.
Yeah, exactly. And one of the pain specialists, I had probably been in hospital for about a week, but she gave me a book and it was about pain and spinal cord injuries, like specifically. And she's like, yeah, this is probably like a good resource for you. And so I read it, and I'm really glad I had that resource straight away, because it was just, I don't know, it was all about pain and spinal cord injuries, obviously. And I guess that kind of directed all my thoughts about pain and like chronic pain, and because I had never really experienced, I guess, bad pain before. And so like after my accident, I get neuropathic pain. So there's like it's like a band around my waist, basically, where the nerves are all just like muddled up. But I'm calling it pain now, but like I usually I'm like very hesitant to even use the word pain when talking about like the sensations, like even the uncomfortable ones. I should call it like, discomfort or whatever, just because like, I mean, your brain is so powerful, and just like even like calling it pain and like it can, really amp it up. And so, how like when someone gets like their leg cut off, like amputation, they might get like phantom pain. So,
yeah,
like,
phantom pains. Yeah.
So like I get phantom pain, but I call it phantom sensation because it's not painful. Like sometimes it's like uncomfortable, but like it's not pain per se.
See, that's what I'm really interested in about Jimmy. So it's not pain. It's not pain. Is it more of a tingling? Like a
right now,
sensation?
Like I swear I can feel my feet. Like they're just like buzzing.
Oh, really?
Like my feet are just constantly just like, they just feel warm and like tingling and like buzzing, but like it's not actually my feet. It's just like my brain. Well, this is me theorizing. It's my brain like so used to having like access to all this like input from my lower limbs, and then it got suddenly cut off, and it's like kind of expecting it still be there. And yeah, I think my brain just makes stuff up. I don't trust this thing.
But have you ever had the sensations where you thought, God, I can feel my legs. I can probably stand up right now?
I think like after spending so much time in hospital, especially like I was in for a long time, I used to like lay in my bed and be like, no, I can definitely feel them. Like, okay, let's start wiggling these toes. Like I'm ready. I'm ready. But yeah, no, like I can still stand, like the muscles still work. I just can't control them. So like the muscles will like spasm. I just can't control them. So if I like pull myself up, my legs will lock out and the muscles will contract for about, I don't know, 30 seconds, and I can stand and wave at you, but then they'll stop working and I'll fall over.
Is there ever an obsession to fix yourself? And do you think that could ever happen in the future?
I think about it like in two ways. In one way, like if I spend the rest of my life in a wheelchair, I'm content with that. Like my life is incredible. Like if this is what it's like for the rest of my life, like that's cool. I've accepted that a long time ago. Yeah. But like on the other side of that, like this, like the scientific innovation and like technology these days is insane, and medical research like is just flying at an incredible pace. And so if I'm to have a spinal cord injury in any time in history, this is the best time to have one, because like things are happening. Like I think was it last year or the year before, there was a guy who he had a severed spinal cord, and they were I can't quite remember all the specifics of this research, but basically they were doing, I think it was spinal stimulation below like the level of injury, and he's able to walk with a 4-wheelie walker, and like he had a severed spinal cord. And so I'm not like hoping that one day I'll be able to walk, but like I feel like it's on the cards, and like if it doesn't happen, that's cool, but like I don't know, I don't want to get ahead of myself.
You know what?
But
I love that, Jimmy.
yeah.
I love that there's hope there in your head, and you've got your whole life in front of you, and it's great that you've accepted, that you're going to lead a good life in a wheelchair because you can. There's so much you can do, but there's that hope, or there's that not hope so as much, but there's that it could. I could walk again one day. Is that something that keeps you going?
Yeah, no, I'd love to walk again. Walking was a lot of fun. I don't want to say like I took it for granted before, but like probably wasn't something that I like thought about. I probably did take it for granted. I guess most people who walk probably do. But yeah, I'd love to just trot down the sound again, because getting down to the ocean in a wheelchair is so much more work than just simply walking across the sand. So I wouldn't mind walking across the sand again.
And do you think that there's enough out there for people like yourself who are in wheelchairs? And because like you said, there's a lot of barriers in the way, right? And I've went onto your social media and I looked at your Instagram, and I saw straight away you love to pop a wheelie.
I do. I feel like if you could do a wheelie all day, you'd do it. It's fun.
I see. Yeah, I get that as well. But I see, you've done the bungee jump, and they're lifting you up the stairs. Do you think there could be more done for people like yourself that are living lives in wheelchairs?
Yeah, I think. Like for me, like in a manual wheelchair, like mine's light and I can kind of get picked up and carried places where it's, not super accessible. But I think like it's a lot harder for people who are in like electric wheelchairs, who don't have, I guess, as much function as me, or, have these big, heavy mobility devices. So like, yeah, it's like in terms of access, like, I don't know. There's a lot of curbs. There's a lot more stairs than you think. There's just everywhere has curbs. But yeah, I think there's definitely room for improvement. But I think it's the direction society is moving, and creating inclusive spaces to make it so everyone can make use of a space and access things they need access.
I've got another question. It might be the world's dumbest question, but have you got back on the slopes?
I have.
Since your accident.
Yeah.
There you go. Wow.
Yeah.
And in what form, and how did that? Yeah. How did that feel?
So it's called sit skiing. I knew I wanted to go skiing. Like even when I was in hospital, I was like, it'd be so fun to go skiing again. And I kind of decided that I was like, it'd be really fun to go skiing like on my anniversary of my accident. But then I didn't want to learn how to ski on the anniversary of my accident, because I knew I would probably not enjoy falling over constantly. So I think it was probably 10 months after my accident, I went down to the snow and started learning to ski again. And yeah, the first 3 days I did a lot of falling over. And then I think by day 5, I had like kind of picked it up, and like I still have a lot of room to improve, but I can manage my way down the mountain and go fast again, which is one of my favorite things to do. So yeah, by the time my 12-month anniversary came around, I was hitting the slopes. It was great.
Wow. And your social media as well has absolutely blown up. Your TikTok, your Instagram, how do you feel about the love that you received from the world, basically? Because you've got a huge following, and you're always putting positive, inspirational stuff out there to help people.
Yeah, it was really strange at the start. Like having videos go viral, like it was really weird. I was super bored in rehab and like wasn't allowed any visitors. So like it was really fun to post videos and then just have like thousands of people commenting nice things, gassing up my ego. We
all need it every now and then, mate. We all need it every now and then.
But yeah, no, it was really cool. And yeah, I don't know, just like I've got a perspective about life, and I feel like I've, had this for a while, and I don't know, a lot of people don't seem to be enjoying their life, or just like life sucks for them. And if I can kind of, give someone, I don't know, maybe push them into, viewing their life from a different perspective, I think that's a great use of my social media. And so if that's what's happening for people, I am stoked with that.
Brilliant, mate. Brilliant. Yeah, it is. It's powerful. You know, social media, I know there's a lot of good and bads, but the good thing about social media is, you know, people do look at it and they can gain, you know, that glimmer of hope, that ounce of inspiration, you know, that little method of if that they can do it, then so can I, you know. So it is powerful for that reason. Are you still studying, Jimmy? And if so, how long have you got left? And what, you know, what's next for you? What's the next studies for you once you're fully qualled?
Yes, I am still studying. I actually took last year off, and so I've got the rest of this year, and then next year, I'll be a first year doctor. So I have to find a nice hospital to work in, and I won't be a student anymore, which will be exciting.
And is there anything outside of medicine that really, really interests you, and that you're going to look at developing, you know, sort of once you fully qualify as a doctor?
At the moment, like, medicine takes up most of my time. Like, so I feel like at the moment, maybe it's just medicine, but after that, I'd love to do more skiing. Honestly, I've skied every year since my accident, and wouldn't mind, you know, doing a bit of competitive skiing down the line.
Oh, really? Nice. Yeah. Nice. Do you know what, Jimmy? I almost see you, and I'm throwing this out to you. You know, I'd love to see you do something like robotics. I'd love to see you merge your medical field with robotics, because, you know, you've got time ahead of you. That field as well is really, really developing at a rapid rate of knots, like the medical field is. So maybe I'm just planting a seed there, mate. You can merge the two together. And listen, I'm going to need an exoskeleton. My body's falling apart. I'm going to need an exoskeleton in a few years, so hopefully I can come knocking at your door.
Okay, when I've finished making myself my new legs, I'll start making yours.
There you go, Jimmy. There you go, mate. Absolutely love chatting to you, mate. Thank you ever so much for coming on the podcast. And for those of you that want some inspiration and want to gain some resilience, then certainly check out Jimmy Jan and his journey. It's fascinating. And Jimmy, it's been an absolute pleasure speaking to you. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thanks so much for joining me on Headgame. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss any of our incredible stories. And leave me a review wherever you're listening. I'm Ant Middleton. Catch you again